Gather close and listen. Imagine the hush that falls as stories of old begin to weave their spell, drawing every ear and heart into the flickering circle of firelight. The fire crackles low, casting long shadows upon these old stone walls. Each ember glows with secrets, each shadow dances with memories of a world both distant and hauntingly familiar. Tonight we journey back to an age of iron and faith, of soaring cathedrals reaching for heaven and bloody battlefields echoing with the clash of steel and the cries of the fallen. We speak of the Crusades, not just the tale of knights in shining armour, but the deeper story beneath the surface, where faith and ambition collided in a storm of destiny. The call to crusade thundered across Europe, stirring peasants and princes alike. From the humblest farmer to the mightiest lord, all felt the pull of a cause that promised glory, salvation, and perhaps something more. Yet beneath the roar there were whispers, ambition, greed, and the hunger for power. Not all who answered the call did so for faith alone. Many saw opportunity in the chaos. The Church, led by the Pope, sought to unite a fractured Europe under one banner. In the candlelit halls of power, plans were drawn, alliances forged, and destinies decided. The threat from the East was real, but so was the opportunity for those who saw the cross as a key to treasure and empire. For some, the crusade was a holy mission. For others, it was a path to riches and renown. Let us pull back the tapestry and explore the shadows where politics, personal gain, and human failing shaped history. In these hidden corners, the true motives of kings and clergy are revealed. The story of the Crusades begins not on a battlefield, but in the calculating heart of a pontiff. Here, in the quiet before the storm, the winds of war began to whisper, promising both salvation and ruin. The call came from Pope Urban II, a master of politics and persuasion whose influence stretched across the Christian world. He understood the power of words and spectacle, and he knew how to rally people to a cause. At Clermont in 1095, he delivered a stirring speech urging knights to march east. He promised them salvation, forgiveness of sins, and eternal glory, while painting a vivid picture of suffering Christians in the Holy Land desperate for help. But behind these sacred words was a shrewd and calculated plan, carefully crafted to serve the Church's interests. The Church was deeply divided, its authority constantly challenged by ambitious kings and powerful emperors who sought to control its wealth and influence. Urban saw the Crusade as a unique opportunity to unite Christendom under his rule, to direct the violence of restless knights outward toward a common enemy, and to heal the growing schism with the Eastern Church, on his own terms with Rome at the centre. The plea for help from Byzantium was a catalyst, but for Urban the true goal was dominance, not merely rescue. He wanted to assert papal supremacy over both East and West. The Crusade, if successful, would make the Pope the undisputed leader of a reunified Christian world, elevating his spiritual and political power to new heights. It was a calculated move in a high-stakes game for both spiritual authority and temporal power, with the fate of Europe hanging in the balance. In the end, the Holy War was as much about control, ambition, and the consolidation of power as it was about faith and salvation. The Pope lit the flame, but kings and lords fueled the fire. For rulers, joining a crusade was a public display of piety and a tool for political gain. It strengthened their crowns, allowed them to raise taxes, and gave them prestige. But it also created risks, leaving kingdoms vulnerable to rivals at home. Some rulers sent troublesome nobles east to remove threats from their courts. The Third Crusade saw Europe's greatest kings, Richard, Philip, and Frederick, unite as allies, but remain bitter rivals. Their alliance was fragile, driven by suspicion and ambition as much as faith. The Crusades became a stage for personal and political rivalries, Holy war and power politics marched side by side. Now to the knights, the armoured heart of the Crusades. Many were driven by faith, but just as many by ambition. In a world where only firstborn sons inherited, younger sons saw the Crusades as a path to fortune. The East promised land, wealth and titles for those bold enough to seize them. A landless knight in Europe could become a lord in the Holy Land. The dream of carving out a fiefdom fueled the Crusader state's creation. Soon the focus shifted from spiritual goals to defending and expanding these new territories. The hunger for land and power became inseparable from the quest for salvation. The Crusades were as much about opportunity as they were about faith. Our story turns to Constantinople, the jewel of Byzantium. The Byzantines, heirs of Rome, viewed the Crusaders with hope and deep suspicion. Emperor Alexios Komnenos sought skilled soldiers but received an unpredictable horde. He demanded oaths of loyalty, expecting recaptured cities to be returned. But Crusader leaders like Bohemond of Taranto had their own ambitions. Oaths were made with fingers crossed. The Crusaders eyed their own kingdoms in the east. Mistrust grew. Byzantines saw the Crusaders as barbaric. Crusaders saw Byzantines as deceitful. This clash of cultures and ambitions poisoned the alliance from the start. The relationship was a political fault line that would lead to betrayal. The seeds of division were sown in the shadow of Constantinople's walls. In every alliance, betrayal lurks. The Crusades were rife with shifting loyalties and personal ambition. Bohemond of Taranto, after capturing Antioch, refused to return it to Byzantium, claiming it for himself. This act shattered trust and poisoned relations between Crusaders and Byzantines for decades. Rivalries persisted. During the Third Crusade, Richard the Lionheart was imprisoned by a fellow Crusader, Duke Leopold, over personal slights. These betrayals revealed the true nature of the Crusades. Politics and ambition often trumped the holy cause. The dream of a united Christian front was broken by the desires of powerful men. The Holy War was always shadowed by self-interest. Not all power in the Crusades came from swords or crowns. The Italian merchant cities, Venice, Genoa, Pisa, saw the Crusades as business. They supplied ships and logistics, demanding gold and trading privileges in return. Their influence grew, turning them into indispensable power brokers. The Fourth Crusade exposed their true power. Unable to pay Venice, Crusaders sacked Christian Zara, then, at Venice's urging, turned on Constantinople itself. The Holy War became a corporate raid, with Venice securing dominance over Mediterranean trade. Greed and commerce twisted the Crusades' purpose. The merchant's coin proved as mighty as the Crusader's sword. The line between faith and profit blurred beyond recognition. The age of the Crusades faded into history, but its echoes remain, whispering through the stones and ruins left behind. These silent witnesses have seen centuries pass, yet the stories they hold are far from forgotten. The wars opened Europe to new trade routes, brought exotic goods and ideas, and sparked the rise of powerful city-states. Merchants and travelers carried not just spices and silks, but also knowledge and innovation from distant lands. These exchanges fueled economic growth, transforming sleepy villages into thriving towns. The Crusades helped awaken Europe from its slumber, setting the stage for a new era of discovery and progress. But the legacy is also one of deep division and enduring mistrust. The clash of faiths and ambitions left scars that would shape relations for centuries. The sacking of Constantinople in 1204 deepened the rift between East and West, weakening Byzantium forever and shattering old alliances. In the Middle East, the Crusades left a bitter memory, a story of conflict, loss and foreign intervention that is still invoked in the present day. echoing through generations. The tale is a cautionary one. Ideals of faith and devotion harnessed for ambition, conquest, and the pursuit of power. The line between holy cause and worldly gain was often blurred. Behind banners and slogans, history is shaped by flawed, driven individuals, leaders and followers alike, each with their own hopes, fears and ambitions. The Crusades were wars fought for heaven, but also for the kingdoms of earth. They were battles for souls, for land, and for legacy. Their echoes still linger if you listen closely in the stones of the old world, reminding us that history is never truly silent, and its lessons are always waiting to be heard.